evening. I want to welcome everyone to our Erev Yom Kippur, our Kol Nidre services. There's no one within any distance of me, so I'm going to remove my mask. Shalom, shalom l'rachok v'lakarov. Welcome to those who are far physically, but who are close to us at heart. And welcome to those who are here in the room with us tonight. It's really great to be with all y'all. We're going to start. For those of you who have a talit here, you may have already put it on. For those of you who have a talit with you at home, this is the one night of the year that we wear a talit, a ritual prayer shawl during the evening service. Usually we wear them in the mornings, but not necessarily in the afternoon of the evening service. So if anyone would like to, please join with me as we say the bracha for putting on the talit in our Siddur. The silverman can be found on page 204. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tilanu b'tatef v'tzitzit. We'll begin tonight with some words, then we'll move on to some prayers. We might hear a few more words. We'll see how it goes. Taking morning walks, baking challah, knitting or embroidery, making hummus, dancing Zumba, lighting Shabbat candles, taking afternoon walks, eating family dinners, saying morning prayers, keeping in shape, Pilates or yoga, cleaning up every day or just before Shabbat, running, taking nightly walks, taking walks with dogs, taking walks with podcasts, with music, with friends, and with family. On Rosh Hashanah, we spoke about the absurdity of the human condition as we enter the year 5781, and how the Jewish tradition gives us certain tools that we can use to manage that absurdity and learn to live lives of meaning even within it. We discussed how we cannot make that absurdity go away, but that our formula of three things given to us by Shimon HaTzadik can help bring that added meaning and stability to our lives in uncertain times. Now, here's your pop quiz. Does anyone here remember what those three things are? Does anyone have one of them?
Purity Torah.
I heard Torah. Excellent. A second one?
Acts of kindness.
What?
Acts of kindness.
Acts of kindness. G'millut Chassadim. Excellent. That's 2 out of the 3. Does anyone have the third one? I heard a lot of things all at once. Tikkun olam. Great. So that kind of goes with the acts of loving kindness. I heard prayer somewhere. Who said prayer? Mike. Gold star. The third one is Avodah, or worship, or prayer. So we have Torah, Avodah, and G'millut Chassadim. We said that each of these would stand for something that we would talk about throughout these holidays. Torah, the power of critical questioning. Avodah, worship, prayer, work, the power of ritual. And G'millut Chassadim, acts of loving kindness, the power of a caring community. This evening, as we approach Kol Nidre, we're going to talk about the power of Avodah, the power of work, of prayer, of regular service, of ritual in our lives. In March 2020, our lives were stripped of much of their ritual. Morning commutes were gone. Regular meetings, water cooler chats, watching sports, all of these rituals that we relied on to anchor our lives were gone in the blink of an eye. Milestones that had been planned for weeks, months, or even years had to be postponed or canceled. As the weeks and the months passed, we attempted to imitate rituals or move them online. Students graduated without getting to walk across the stage. We attended remote weddings, baby namings, and funerals, but they just weren't the same. As our rituals were stripped away, our very rhythm of life was thrown off. It became much harder, at least for me, to remember what day of the week it was, let alone what day of the month. Without rituals, we have been adrift, trying to find our footing as we navigate the chaos of 2020. When I was trying to figure out a way to get to the power of ritual, I was sitting in the office here at Agudath Achim with my fiance Ariane, and she recommended reaching out to others, reaching out to my friends broadly to hear what rituals had been impacting them during this time. I used Facebook and Instagram to just ask all of my followers, Jewish and non-Jewish, what's one ritual that's been helping them get through the last 7 months? And the answers started pouring in. First 10 responses, then 20, then 30, then 40. People were so eager to share their rituals that they were clinging to at this moment. The list I read at the beginning, the one with lots of walking and crafts projects, that was just a sampling of the answers that I received when I posed this question. By the mere fact of their repetition, these types of rituals can help us to manage the absurdity that we couldn't have imagined or prepared for. When we talked about Torah and the questions, we said that there can be an overwhelming number of questions and a lack of answers. Repetitive ritual can offer us answers in a way that can soothe some of our uncertainty about the future. I may not know what's going to happen next month, or next year, or even next week, but I can know that tonight I'm going to light Shabbat candles. Repetitive ritual gives us the ability to exert control over discrete portions of our lives, even as we experience a lack of control over extreme natural and human events occurring all around us. The power of repetitive ritual comes from its repetition. A former coworker of mine, Hassan, jokingly wrote on my Facebook post that his ritual has been putting a mark on the wall every time he wakes up, metaphorically. He went on to talk about daily journaling, but this joke actually impressed upon me how even someone who has no other control over their life, a prisoner whose all control has been stripped away, finds such meaning from a ritual of marking the wall to mark the passage of time. The power of repetitive ritual comes from its repetition. Repetitive rituals are often ones that feel great when we first start them. At my sister's suggestion, about a month ago, I started running using the Nike Run Club app. I'm not telling you that as a paid advertisement. I'm telling you that because one of the primary benefits of this app has been the coach, Chris Bennett, who encourages you along the way during your runs. One of the first points he makes in the first run that you're supposed to take with him acknowledges that when you start running, you cannot have unrealistic expectations for repetitive ritual. You cannot expect it to keep feeling great every time that you do it. You can't expect to get that runner's high every time. The point of repetitive ritual is not for it to be perfect or even excellent each time we do it. Sometimes we'll bake a challah that comes out a bit oddly shaped. Sometimes we might struggle to really get into a Zumba class or a yoga class, and we're thinking, what's wrong with me today? Why can't I get into this the way I did when I first started? Sometimes that amazing family dinner can devolve into a family argument. At least it can in my house. My yoga mentor, Jesse Lipkowitz, once told me that having a bad yoga class actually meant I could really call myself a yogi. She told me that if every yoga experience I had was amazing and magical, then I probably wasn't doing it regularly enough. Sometimes it's going to be boring, or hard in a bad way, or you won't like the teacher or the music that's playing, she told me. That's okay. What's important is that you come back to your yoga mat again. The word that Shimon HaTzadik used in his formula is important. The word is Avodah. It was a word that was used to talk about the sacrificial system of the temple, but it literally means work. These types of rituals require the willingness to put in the work and keep coming back to them, whether it's day after day or week after week or year after year. They require us to commit to them as rituals, and in return, they anchor us to reality. When Rabbi Dan or my classmate and soon-to-be Rabbi Margot wrote about cleaning their houses every week before Shabbat, or my friend Ben from camp does a 15-minute YouTube yoga session every morning, when Ariane's friend Ali waters her plants every single day, and when we all gather together tonight on Kol Nidre, as we do year in and year out, we do the Avodah, we do the work of ritual. Kol Nidre, the ancient prayer which we'll be reciting shortly, is a fascinating ritual of repetition, precisely because it can be so difficult to comprehend. The prayer is actually a legal formula written in Aramaic. Even those of us with good Hebrew backgrounds can be mystified by the words that we're saying. We don't come to Kol Nidre services, or I should say, I don't come to Kol Nidre services because I know exactly what Kol Nidre means, and those words have deep meaning to me. I'm just being honest, that's not why I'm here. And yet, when we hear Kol Nidre Ve'esarei, something within us moves. Something in our Jewish kishkas is touched by those words, by the melody, and by the ritual of this prayer. The power of ritual is so deeply ingrained within us that it can move us even when we do not understand what is happening. The power of repetitive ritual comes from its repetition. When something is repeated enough times, it takes on a life of its own. It gives us a way to put a sticky note on a place in the week, or in the month, or in the year, when ritual takes place. When we make teshuvah, this word that we talk about so much this time of year, when we return to this place that we return to year after year, we get a chance to look back and remember where we were at this point last year. Remember who we were with, what we could see, what we were still tasting in our mouths for our pre-fast meal. All of those senses can come back to us when we repeat the same thing. It calls to mind all the past experiences of this ritual, and it blends them with the moment that we are in now. In addition to its power of repetition, ritual also has a power of transformation. Ritual, no matter what kind, marks a passage of time and makes a distinction between who we were before the ritual and who we are after the ritual. As Coach Bennett says in my ears every time I go for a run, you're a different version of yourself after this run. And that version of yourself will be just a little bit better than you were before. By committing ourselves to a ritual, we situate ourselves in this in-between place. This liminal place that ritual helps us move past. It helps us control the way in which we enter the next stage of our lives. Whether that just be my post-run life, whether that's my post-graduation life, or my post-Kol Nidre life. Many people who told me about their rituals mentioned that they include moments of reflection, mindfulness, and especially gratitude. Rabbi Aderet Drucker, who was a Gladstein Fellow herself and is now a rabbi in the DC area, she was one of a number of people who mentioned Shabbat candlelighting as a time to spend some moments thinking about what she's thankful for. A friend of mine from college, Caitlin, who's now a special education teacher, said she starts every morning with a group of friends via text, all sharing 3 things that they're grateful for. Whether it's before Shabbat, every morning, or any other time, these rituals help us to control our own mindset. Remembering to take moments of reflection and gratitude do not make life any less absurd. But those moments of ritual themselves can be important oases for us. They can be moments of shelter from the storm that can give us the power to continue moving forward. Some rituals don't even need repetition to accomplish this. Rituals like a bar or bat mitzvah, funerals, or baby namings are Jewish ways of marking a transition from one point of life to another. I know we don't want to repeatedly ritualize the Brit Milah. We can also see these rituals of transition when you move to a new place or start a new job. Graduation ceremonies are perhaps one of our most sacred secular rituals of transition. My family has spent a lot of time during the pandemic watching the TV show The Office. One of the most poignant episodes of the entire series are when the main character and boss, Michael, has his last day at the office. Michael creates his own ritual almost haphazardly in which he spends time with each person in the company, sharing wisdom, giving gifts, and saying goodbye. Right now, on Kol Nidre, as the sun is setting, we are at the most in-between space in the Jewish calendar. We're at the point when a year is ending and a new year is beginning. As we enter Yom Kippur, our tradition holds that God has written our names in a book, and in just about 25, maybe 26 hours, is going to seal those books. Does it get any more literal than this? Each year as we gather together for Yom Kippur services, we dress the Torahs and ourselves in white robes, we beat our chests, we hope, we pray that the rituals that we're doing, that the tshuva, the returning, the going around and around and around that we're doing, will transform us. We hope that we will come out the other side of this holiday renewed, refreshed, and relieved. Our rituals as Jews, our Avodah, our work, our worship, our prayer, has this deep power of transformation. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said, prayer may not save us, but prayer may make us worthy of being saved. Now this year, 5781, is only 10 days old. We are here on the night when we say Kol Nidre, when we preemptively forgive ourselves if we make vows that we cannot keep. And yet, I'm going to ask you to try to commit to something. I understand that's ironic. I'm asking you to make a promise that you're kind of going to annul in just a couple minutes when we do Kol Nidre, but we're going to try. The good news is, if you don't follow through, if this is a New Year's resolution that doesn't work out for you, you're in the clear. But let's try it together. First, I'd like you to think of one daily ritual that could bring some joy to your life. Maybe this is something you already do. Maybe it's something you've been aspiring to for a long time. Now, we can't all be as lucky as my friend Danny, another friend from college, who lives in the Cayman Islands, and he wrote on my Facebook post that he has a ritual of sitting on the seawall every morning with a cup of coffee and watching the sunset with a glass of wine every night. We're not all Danny, but we can think of one thing that we can ritualize that will make our day just a little bit better. If it's something you already do, perhaps think about what kind of intention you could set that could take it to the next level. If you already do a yoga class every day, maybe taking a second to have gratitude for the body that allows you to stretch and move in that way. If every single day you take a morning walk, maybe setting an intention that you're going to look around and see one thing that's different from the day before, one way in which time has elapsed, one way in which the cycle of the year has moved as the seasons change. You might miss days, you might not be perfect and do this ritual every single day. That's okay. Your ritual will be there. You can always come back to it. Next, I'd like you to think of one Shabbat ritual that you can commit to. It might be lighting Shabbat candles. It might be a Shabbat walk. It might be making sure to check in with a friend or family member right before a Shabbat every week. Rabbi Heschel called Shabbat the palace in time that God has built. What can we do to inhabit that palace? What can we do to know what day of the week it is because we know how far we are from our Shabbat ritual? What can we do to make Shabbat special in our lives, to mark time at a time when time seems to have no meaning? And lastly, I'd like to ask everyone, whether you're here or at home, to take a minute before we enter this ritual of Kol Nidre to quietly think and set an intention. Let your mind wander back to Kol Nidre last year, the year before that, or the year before that. Let the ritual power of Kol Nidre surround you as you prepare to hear these powerful words. Even as we release ourselves of all of our oaths and all of our promises, let us at the same time promise to be back next year, celebrating this ritual once again. In just a moment, we'll begin with Kol Nidre on page 207.